Well, we caught a bit of a break today as some slightly, I don't even want to call it smoke-free air, so how do you put it? The less smoke-free air, or less smoke-free, less smoke air. It moved in. Okay, either way, it was a better day across much of the Northeast. We had smoke that wound up being a little further south today into the Southeast. So we'll talk about that and where we're going with all of this. Plus, we've got weather as we are heading into a weekend after tomorrow, and we'll have that all for you next on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. So make sure to get over there to Omni to get all the topsoil, mulch, sand, or anything else you need to make your home look great. 631-756-1125. Best prices anywhere. The website is...
Of course, OmniTrueValue.com, Joe.
Yes, and our affiliate Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. It's easy to install. I did it, and believe me, I I have two left hands when it comes to this sort of stuff. It's easy to install. The referral link is at the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And if you use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show, guess what you get, Johnny?
You get 10% off there, Wink.
Yes. You could have said Bob or Monty.
Or Bill.
Or Bill. You went right to Wink Martindale.
Yep.
Okay. So it was a little better today, certainly. It was, in fact, I was looking upstream. I'll show everybody on the Canadian dust loop shortly. There's not a whole lot upstream, so maybe we've gone through the worst of this.
I would hope so. But I tell you, the map that I was looking at, which I really don't have too much confidence in because it doesn't seem to match up with the maps I've been seeing on television, but it still is indicating that the heaviest smoke is going to be to the west and to the south of the tri-state area. And whereas yesterday we saw readings of like 400 or 450, today they were more like anywhere from 150 to 200. So not the best, still an unhealthy type of weather regime out there relative to the smoke, but certainly nothing to compare with the incredible anomalous days that we had yesterday when the sky literally turned orange for a few hours.
Yeah, I talked to a few of my friends. They having trouble breathing after spending time outdoors yesterday. So it can't be fun.
There was some actress who, in a play here in New York,
had to stop.
Like 10 minutes into the play, she just said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I can't continue with this," and the understudy came on in her place, and that was interesting. But it's affecting people in various ways.
Yeah. And I had a thought in my head now, and I forgot what I was going to say. All right, now I remember. So let me just really quick welcome to everybody tonight on the chat board. Those of you watching off the chat board, welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is on Monday through Thursday at 7:35, Sundays at 11 a.m., and we are off on Fridays and Saturdays unless there's an apocalypse coming. If there is, we'd be on. Otherwise, we take a couple of days off to recharge our batteries. Oh, now I remember what I wanted to tell you. So the smoke actually made it here into North Georgia, but and I saw this because I have the mountains. When I drive from town, I drive into the mountains, so I have all the high peaks ahead of me, and you could see the smoke was very hazy in the mountaintops, but it wasn't that hazy at all on the other side. So a lot of it must have gotten, I was mentioning last night how they had air quality alerts down into western North Carolina, and I'm only 20 miles from the North Carolina state line, so that's basically a stone's throw. But the mountains kind of trapped some of the smoke, or a good chunk of it. It kept it north, which which was made for some scenic views. You know, the little haze there in the background, but it wasn't really too bad here. There was a hint of it in the skies, but you certainly couldn't smell it.
Well, I'm looking here at the state park that we mentioned that you were nearby to, not too far from.
The Chattahoochee.
Chattahoochee, or
Well, you want to share the map, so you can.
oh, okay. Well, basically, you really didn't have that much of a problem in terms of air quality. In fact, I'll show you right now. This is near Suches.
Suches.
Suches. Okay. Well, anyway, you could see that the air quality index there was 64.
Hold on, so Joe, just a second. Just having a little bit of technical difficulty here getting this on the screen. There you go. Now it's up there now, I believe.
Okay.
Something's up there.
Suches, Georgia. Moderate air quality index 64. Anything below 50 and you're okay. You're totally free and clear. But 64, that's really not all that bad. Certainly, for God's sake, New York City yesterday was like in the 400s. So you could see how much better the conditions are, the breathing conditions are. Let me see if this one here, Young Harris, Georgia.
Yeah, that's the town next to me. It's not about 9 miles away.
Now 61. So you see that you had moderate, barely, right over the 50 boundary. So it was pretty good. Now where I am, and I'm of course up in Putnam County in New York, and you can see not too far away to my north, we have a lot of the greens there. Those are places that are probably below 50. But for me, let's see. Let me pick here a place. How about this? I think this is Garrison. Now, Garrison is 104, almost twice what you are looking at down your way. We're unhealthy for sensitive groups. So it's better. Certainly, it's a big come down from yesterday, but still on the unhealthy side. The news media here in New York, of course, is treating that 104 as if it were the equivalent of yesterday's 400.
Oh yeah, and I saw a variety of politicians who shall go nameless, with the taking the opportunity to make political statements about it, but never, that's another story for another day.
Well, Whoopi Goldberg would have been very upset because the very popular show The View, which my wife never misses, each afternoon or each morning, late morning, 11 to noon time, and like right smack in the middle of the show, all of a sudden, we have a special report from ABC News. Here's Governor Kathy Hochul. And what is she doing? She's just like simply talking about, we know the air is not, clean. We know that, but instead of saying something like, we're so thankful that it's so much more improved over yesterday, she's making it sound like it hasn't ended, that it's continuing on the same line of yesterday. And let me tell you, Joe, yesterday, orange sky, this is here in Putnam County now, orange sky, orange sun, smelled like, as I said yesterday, burnt pizza. No smell in the sky today. Sky much brighter, sun no longer appearing orange, more like its usual yellowish white color. A big improvement. But instead of, playing that up, as you just said, the politicians prefer to keep you mired in, it's terrible and it's not going to improve. But really, it was I know it's unhelpful still by the standards or by the indices of, measuring the air quality, but a big improvement. But nobody wanted to say, hey, look at this. We improved quite a bit since yesterday. No, they just want to continue, dwelling upon.
Well, there's not much else to talk about, so I guess not that it didn't. Obviously, it warranted being the headline in the news, but you're right. Today it was better, and
you can see. Look at I pulled out here on the map, and now here's the zone of the smoke, and there's a major now. All of the fires are up here in Quebec, but apparently the wind flow is such that it's circulating in this manner. I mean, from a west-southwest direction down straight south, and then it eventually comes back.
Right, that's the shape of the trough. That is what it looks like at 18,000 feet. The trough, the upper low in northern New England is stretching northeast southwest. So yeah, it's coming down straight south, further west, and then turning east across the southern portion of the Mid-Atlantic states.
Air quality in Albany, AQI is 67, but not too far away. For example, up here in Bennington, Vermont, look at this, 23. I mean, there's the good air.
Yeah.
You want to take a good hard whiff, go up toward Vermont. They have wonderful conditions up there. And again, from this map, it looks like the much cleaner air, again, because of the shape of the trough, has penetrated now all the way down. Much improved. Here's the boundary zone of that area of smoke, practically just north of where I am. So hopefully the improvement will continue, and we'll continue to see that. Oh, by the way, Joe, I know you're a big racing fan. The governor announced that at Belmont Park, no horse racing today at Belmont or Aqueduct or Yonkers. And they said relative to the Belmont Stake on Saturday, if the air quality index is 200 or higher, the Belmont will be canceled or at least postponed. So,
all right. Well, at least we know that.
I don't think it's going to get back to 200 on Saturday.
Right.
At least, but that just gives you an idea of what's going on with the horsies.
Steve Lapointe hitting super chat tonight, comparing the situation with the New York Mutts, as he called them. Joe, 9 games out after tonight. So that's where his head is at. Take a look at the Canada. I got the dust loop. I love calling it the dust loop. A couple of things here that stand out to me. So the pink shading is what was over us yesterday. And if you look, it's over the coastal waters, but not on the land, out in the Atlantic. You see how it's just almost hugging the landmass, but staying off, like at Newfoundland, where it's mostly a lighter shade of blue, which indicates that it's not, there's not a whole lot of smoke there. And the purple, which is that dense smoke, is hugging the coastline. Look at the same thing for Hudson Bay, for Lake Superior, and Lake Michigan. I can't see over Lake Huron because that orange you see, those are clouds that have pulled back southwestward because of the shape of the upper trough. But it's interesting that the smoke is sort of trapped over the waters, while on land, the land surrounding east of Hudson Bay, it's all blue. There's no smoke up there.
Yeah, and look at that one area of brown again. We just pointed this out, heading on a trajectory to the southwest.
Yes,
from the fires up in Quebec, that looks like it's heading right for Lake Huron, and if it continues and it holds together, places in Michigan will have a problem late tonight or maybe tomorrow morning.
Right. This is what the trough looks like. Basically, it's like this.
Yeah.
As it's stretching out, getting ready to pull away, and that's what we're really waiting for here, is for this to just pull away to the northeast and get these upper air winds out of here and turn them more to the southwest, which should happen at some point over the weekend. Now here's the close-up view of the dust. And again, we've got high clouds, the orange there and the browns, those are all clouds. But you see inside across upstate New York where there were breaks in the cloud cover, it's all blue. And that's another thing. Around midday, I noticed the visibilities really came up nicely around New York City, around Philadelphia, pretty much between 4 and 7 miles. I didn't really check after that. And north of you, Joe, you go further upstate New York along I-90. I mean, all the visibilities there were 8, 9, 10 miles. So definitely a much better scenario. I'm going to switch this to the full continental, the East Coast, the U.S., and let's get the lightning loop, as I like to use this with the showing us at least where there's some thunderstorms going on. And I shall make this map a little bigger. There we go. That should work. And no thunderstorms going on in the Northeast. There are some showers, but no convection. In fact, WPC even pulled the general thunderstorms completely out and moved it further south. There's some scattered thunderstorms there in East Texas, along the Louisiana Gulf Coast, a couple of stray cells in right along the Georgia-Florida border, approaching Jacksonville, and we've got some showers and thunderstorms up in the northwest of the northern Rockies, but not a whole. There's hardly any activity going on from thunderstorm perspective in the much of the eastern part of the United States. But we do have some showers on the radar. There's a peppering of showers, Joe, with a couple of slightly heavier ones along I-90. Looks like popcorn showers all over the place in upstate New York and up into Vermont, New Hampshire, and then a big patch of rain there. That's the upper trough. We're just sort of, as I said, we're waiting for it to move on through. Otherwise, the radars are fairly quiet. Those scattered cells to the south, the cells that are around the Gulf Coast, and a little busier up in the northwest, where we've got uh, one severe thunderstorm warning up in on the Idaho-Washington border, probably not far from Spokane, and a couple of flash flood warnings in parts of Montana. So they've been getting more than their fair share of precip, particularly in California, which is supposed to be their dry season, the same in Nevada here. But the season may be the dry season, but the atmosphere doesn't always follow the path.
No, it's what's the old saying? Climate is what you expect, but ultimately, weather is
Weather
what
is
you
what
get,
you have.
and that's what they're getting right now. What they have right now. So it certainly is a flip from this time last year. Last year, California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, they were all begging for moisture. They were saying, oh, we need the rain. We haven't had any rain or whatever like that. Well, they've had more than their fair share from this winter, and in not all, but some cases, it's still out there. So, drink it up.
Yep. SPC's got marginal risk in the southeast. Small area of general thunderstorms from southern New Jersey to northeastern North Carolina. Marginal to slight risk in the southeast Texas and along the coastal bend. And a marginal risk in parts of the Dakotas back over into Montana. As we take a look at tomorrow, see what our friends at the Storm Predictions Center have to say for tomorrow. Tomorrow, they do have general thunderstorms in much of the northeast and mid-Atlantic states. Marginal risk in the panhandle of Florida, east to the coast, and then south along the east coast to about Miami. We have marginal risk pretty much in the western plains, with a slight risk in southeastern Colorado, southwest Kansas, and the Oklahoma panhandle. Otherwise, general thunderstorms everywhere else. And then as we look on to day three being Saturday into Sunday, showing a small area of general thunderstorms in the northeast, except for the immediate coast from Long Island south. Marginal to slight risk in the western Gulf states and the lower Mississippi Valley, and general thunderstorms, up and down the Mississippi Valley and back up through the Rockies. There's nothing to speak of yet in the long range. Now, in terms of rainfall, it's all going to come with the next cold front. Once this upper low finally pulls out, as we've been waiting for it to happen, weather systems are going to start moving along. So, what do we got? We got 3/4 of an inch to some areas inland, upstate New York and Pennsylvania, and into New England, showing 1.5 inches or more. The 3/4 inch line goes down to southern New Jersey, Delaware, into Virginia and North Carolina. Sizable rains, 2 to 3 inches in the next 7 days across Tennessee, northern Alabama, and northern Georgia. They got me in that, which, I'm not going to complain. I did a lot of planting and gardening today, so it'll save me the trouble of having to water if it would rain. And significant rains on the order of 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches through the Central Plains. Gets even heavier up in the northern Rockies, and still up in the Sierra Nevadas, a lot of rain there being indicated. Again, it's supposed to be the beginnings of the dry season, but the atmosphere in the west is not paying very close attention. So before we get to the surface, let's just look at what's going on upstairs so that we can at least look at how this smoke may play out in the next couple of days. So there's our trough. Let me just roll it back just to show you. Hang on. Here we go. So here's our upper low in the east. It's been with us for days and days. The upper low centered tonight in northern New Hampshire. And as Joe pointed out, you see how everything in Quebec in the upper air is moving northeast to southwest. Then it's north to south around the Great Lakes, and then it goes all the way down into the southeastern part of the U.S. So this is definitely a much better flow for us, Joe. It also cuts off whatever's going on up in northern Canada with the smoke. Now, with the upper low in this orientation, it's separate from that area, so it's not going to be able to pull much of the smoke southward. When it does pull down, it's going to go down as Great Lakes, Midwest, and into the southeast.
Right, right. So again, people who live, let's say, in the Central or Eastern Lakes region, they may have a problem later tonight and tomorrow with the smoke. But it appears that here in the immediate tri-state area, yeah, the indices are still indicating unhealthy levels, but certainly nothing to compare with what we had yesterday, and even maybe a bit of a dip from what we had here today. So the worst hopefully will be behind us, but unfortunately for the folks who live well west of here, they're still in the thick of things, literally and figuratively.
So going forward, the upper low is going to pull out. Excuse me. It's going to pull out. Starts to pull out on Saturday. You see our upper air winds are northwest, but then another upper low drops down into the Great Lakes. So our upper air winds on Sunday turn west and then southwest. Yippee! But now we've got this new wrapped up upper low over the Great Lakes that begins to move eastward. That's going to push a cold front through here sometime later Monday or Monday night. And the key to the forecast going forward, at least from the standpoint of whether there's going to be another appearance of a major smoke event, is whether this setup here for next Wednesday and Thursday, does this upper low lock itself away in New England, or does it just keep on moving? And it keeps on moving, which is what we want. And it also keeps the Canadian connection is broken here. The flow late next week, and now we're into Father's Day weekend, is pretty much straight west to east. And as long as we can keep it west to east, we should be in pretty good shape. Two new folks hitting on the super chat, Joe. Aaron hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Aaron. And Sandy Blue Ocean. Here's to the gardeners. May we all get rain we need and not too much of it. And I agree. So, beyond Father's Day weekend, with everything moving west to east, that's a good thing. Now, I will point out that for those of you who are paying, maybe paying attention to the GFS just a little bit too much, but it's there, so we use it. The GFS for the better part of a week now has been telegraphing something forming in the Southwest Gulf. I'm sorry, the Southwest Caribbean. And Joe, it continues to do so, and now we are now in day 9, okay, where it's still there. So my rule is eyebrows get raised if it's inside day 7. So when we come back on Sunday, if the GFS is still doing it, then we're going to have to start. You're going to raise your left eyebrow, Mr. Rayo, ever so slightly. Okay, ever so slightly. And every run has a different place. It gets it in the Gulf of Mexico. They all do that, and then each run has its own, way of taking it one place or another. So this run today actually takes it northwest and then turns it west, and then it turns it southwest and south into Mexico, south of Brownsville. We've had various runs that have gone to New Orleans. Some have gone to the Texas coast. Some have gone to the Florida Panhandle. So this one wants to go into Mexico. So who knows? But again, we're inside day 10, but we have to wait till Sunday when we're inside day 7, and then we will, as I said, we will raise the left eyebrow and take a look at this. So
Let's take a look at what the European model would be saying,
My
or even
guess
the
is
Canadian.
my guess is that the European's not showing anything, but we'll give it a look. Let's look at the European since we can do that. And where's the Western Atlantic, which is what we want, and the European. So this is 90 hours. So let's keep going. The European only goes out to 10 days. My eyes are peeled on the southwestern Gulf. There's a little weather. There is some weather there, but there's no low that develops. So the European has nothing, okay, uh, on day 10, and compared to the GFS, which on day 10 has a tropical storm. Uh,
Right.
so again, talk to me on Sunday. If it's still there, then we can start looking at it.
Just for the heck of it, can we see what the Canadian model has on its
Sure.
10 day?
Uh, nope, not a flake, not an ice pellet, nothing.
Okay.
Any other models you want to look at that we have?
I don't think
The
anything any
icon doesn't go out far enough.
they don't. So
So, okay, so we looked at the three majors. So let's go to back to the GFS and take a look at what's going on weather-wise across the U.S. in the coming days. And of course, it's all about getting the traffic jam unjammed, which we're going to do. Uh, Another upper trough tomorrow, so there'll be some scattered showers and maybe a thunderstorm in the northeast. You can see some moisture being generated there, but much of the time is probably going to be rain-free. We continue to see activity going on in the northern plains and the western plains and on up in the Pacific Northwest. Then Saturday, a little bit of instability inland, but nothing to write home about. More action in the Mississippi Valley and back up through the Central Plains again. Sunday looks like a good day, and I think, Joe, we're on course to go to be in the 80s on Sunday.
yeah, I said actually for Sunday locally here in the Hudson Valley, lower Hudson Valley, I have 82 degrees or thereabouts. A seasonably warm and fairly sunny day. Looks very nice.
Yeah,
Big news in the New York area on Sunday is that the Puerto Rican Day Parade is on Sunday. So always a big event in Manhattan, and they will have a very good day to parade. It looks like on Sunday in the afternoon.
and in the south, for you folks in the southeast that are watching, nice weather for the most part in the Carolinas and Georgia and in the Gulf Coast, other than a scattered shower or thunderstorm right along the immediate coast for both Friday and Saturday. But later Saturday night and on Sunday, that's when we start to see some rain coming in across the south. Meanwhile, low pressure is going to swing out of, it looks like maybe Kansas or so, and then goes into Illinois and heads up into Ohio with some showers Sunday night from Michigan and Ohio southward across Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia. And then those showers and storms look like they'll come in during Sunday night. Looks like there's a warm front that's going up and then a cold front that follows late in the day, Monday into Monday night. So maybe we'll have some showers and boom booms to talk about. And then after that, some rainy weather in parts of the Tennessee Valley, Tuesday and Wednesday, sinking into the southeast later in the week. But not too much happening in the northeast other than some instability. And then Father's Day weekend, Saturday looks good. Sunday also looks good until late in the day, and it's too far in advance anyway to put too much confidence in it. Mark G. Mark G. I know who Mark G is, by the way. I won't reveal. But Mark G hitting the super chat tip jar tonight. Thank you, Mark. Most appreciated. And yes, a beer for Joe and a cigar for me.
I hate. Could you change that to a Coke
A Coke?
for me, whatever. I think I've said this more than once in my 60 plus years on this planet. I have never had either a bottle or a glass of beer.
Really?
I never acquired the taste for beer.
Well, you
I'm
can't acquire a taste for something you've never had.
Well, I mean, like I'm a big embarrassment at the
At the German club, I would imagine you would be.
They say this, Joe. Why don't you have a beer? Why don't you be a man finally?
All right, let's wrap up this Thursday night because I'm tired. I did so much gardening today. I carved out 2 flower beds. I planted a whole bunch of plants, all perennials. Um, and I also built a wall with blocks to make a big flower bed. I had to run back and forth to Home Depot, make 2 trips to get enough blocks, but I got it done, and I'm exhausted. So let's get this
Okay.
going.
All right. So we'll check out tonight's Briller Jeopardy. And tonight is finally, says the chairman, the last edition of Average Highs in the month of June. Remember when Johnny Carson used to do Karnak, the Magnificent,
Yes.
with the envelopes? And they do like 5 or 8 of those, very bad predictions about, when Johnny Carson put it up to his head and try to guess what was inside the envelope. And then Ed McMahon would hand him, he'd say, I have in my hand the last envelope. And like half the audience would give him a standing ovation. So happy that it was all over. Well, tonight, finally, the last edition of Average Highs in the month of June. And we start tonight with Lost Wages, Nevada, Las Vegas.
Lost wages. By the way, I just wanted to show everybody. This is what my dog does every time we do the Joe and Joe Weather Show. He's right behind me, asleep.
Okay.
Okay. So that's what JJ does. And there he is. He does not move. He knows he comes in with me when I go to sit down in front of the computer, and then he just goes out like a light.
Yep.
All right. I'm sorry. So Las Vegas, we're looking for the average high for the month of June.
Yes, sir.
So I'll say 98.
Ooh. Ooh.
Well, if that ooh means that either William Uber at 99 or Chuck Cardillo at 97 is correct.
Well, we've been Uberized. It's 99 degrees.
99.
I was the wife and I were in Las Vegas last year in May, at the end of May, and on one particular day, the temperature was 104, and the relative humidity was something like 7%.
I've never been. You would think a degenerate like me would have been there at least once. I have never been to Las Vegas.
I've been there twice. Now, last year it was tolerable. The other time in 2012 that I was in Las Vegas, the winds were blowing, and I said to both my wife and also my daughter who was with us, I said, I almost feel like I'm walking into an 1,800-watt hairdryer.
Yeah, that's probably what it feels like.
Oh.
All right, what's next?
Los Angeles. Or Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Yeah, that's tough. The weather right along the coast on the west side of Los Angeles is so much different than the weather on the east side. Is this the airport? Is this the downtown?
No, he didn't make any.
Right. It could be anything. I'll say 79.
Well, I'll put you out of your misery. Northern Grace didn't get it, but was within 78. So if it's not 79, and if it's not 78, it must be
80 or 77.
77.
77 WABC degrees.
Yes.
Well, Carol DeCara got 77.
Well,
and so did Sandy Blue Ocean, who's new on the chat board, by the way, and hit the tip jar. Okay, yes. Next.
Miami.
I'll say 89.
Good. You know why?
Why?
It is 89.
Yeah, 89. Wow. I just remember for the longest time in the you get into the summer months. I can remember for years. Every time I'd look at Miami to see what the high was always 89. So I'll just went for 89. So Patrick Darcy, John Melander, Miss Fallerite, we're all in the same boat. So is William Uber, and 89. Next.
2 places that you have lived at or in. Well, I know you didn't live in Central Park, but you did live in New York City. Central Park, average high temperature in June.
trying to remember what we said for Philadelphia the other day. Uh,
You want me to tell you what we?
I'll say 80, 83,
Well,
84,
Philadelphia was 83.
83.
Yeah.
So I'll say 82.
Not quite.
Okay. John Melander not quite at 82.
Sandy Blue Ocean did get it though.
What
At
did 80?
And Northern Grace got it too, 80.
80. All right. Well, I wasn't too far off.
Chuck Cardillo said 885, but that's on the warm side, Chuck.
Yes.
Final one, another place that you spent some time in, New Orleans.
Okay, so New Orleans is another place that goes every day. Every day would top out at 90 or 91. Every once in a while there'd be an earlier thunderstorm, and the high for the day would be 89. So since it's for June, I'll say, compensate for the beginning of the month versus the end of the month. So I'll say 87.
No, but Matthew Howe, and also who else?
Patrick Darcy.
I really don't.
Matthew Howe said 90. Patrick Darcy says 90.
90. All right. So Pat said they're both right. That is
Sandy
90.
Blue Ocean is 90. Yeah, I guess I just forgot. I knew it was going to. Eventually, it does get to where it's just 90 every day.
You said 90 or 91, or if there's a thunderstorm, it's 89.
89.
And I'm surprised that you didn't choose one of those three.
Well, I was thinking because of the beginning of the month that maybe it just would skew lower. So I was just trying to get in my head around June 15th what the number would be. So right. I went a little too low.
Okay.
It's been many years since I've been to New Orleans. It's been over 35 years.
Yes.
So.
But I'm sure, there were a few days of heat and humidity that will be tattooed in your brain or on your brain for the rest of your life.
The only place I've ever been to where I used to play tennis in the morning. We used to play at 9 o'clock, because if you didn't start playing early enough, you would, by the time 11, if you played for a couple of hours at 11 o'clock, you were boiling. It's the only place I've ever been to where, you would literally, your clothes would be so soaked in sweat that you could take them off and then wring them out in the sink. Okay, and you would sweat through your feet, through your sweat socks, through your sneakers, and leave footprints on the tennis court. But the thing is, when you'd leave the footprints, you could just take a step back, look at the footprint, and watch, because within 1 minute it would disappear. It would just evaporate right before your eyes.
I think the worst heat and humidity I've ever tolerated was in August of 1983. I was at the Kennedy Space Center covering the first night launch of the space shuttle. That, you talk about Garucci fireworks displays. To see a shuttle go off at night from the press center, which is only 3.5 miles from the launch pad, that was amazing. But that was Joe, during the afternoon. My God,
brutal.
The heat, the sunlight hitting you with such an intensity. Combine that with, I've been telling people, it was like triple the amount of humidity that I ever felt on the worst day here in New York.
Yeah,
it's
brutal.
horrible.
It's brutal. All right, let's end on a happy note and say goodbye to everybody that's watching the show. Remember, we'll be back Sunday at 11 a.m. So make sure you have a great weekend. The Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought, and this, by the way, makes a great Father's Day gift. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by our affiliates, Tempest by WeatherFlow, the revolutionary Tempest weather system. You can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board and is on the descriptor to this video. The coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show gets you
a great big 10% off. And hey, Joe's absolutely right. This weather station sounds like a great buy for Dad. Maybe you'll be making him into a weather junkie. So buy it, get 10% off by mentioning Joe and Joe. And
also brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the phone number. The website is
OmniTrueValue.com. By the way, Dennis Cassia on the chat board saying to his wife Kim, "Yes, Kim, a great Father's Day gift." Hint, hint, Kim, hint. And thank you again to tonight's super chat hits by Steve Lapointe, Aaron, Sandy Blue Ocean, and Mark G.
And have a great weekend. Good night, everybody.
Nighty night.